on. Oh my goodness, guys. It's another episode of HMO Podcast, another live stream. I am your host, Brooks. And today I have with me the birthday boy, Ian, from the Impact Podcast. He also has a website. Ian, what's up, man?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate the birthday wishes and all that. And it's a good day, honestly, man. Can't wait to talk some G League ball.
Yes, sir. And then we got Ryan Leshko here from the Hoop Talk Podcast. Also another Towson student, Towson alum soon to be. Ryan, what's up, bro?
What's going on, guys? What's going on?
So, as Ian said, we have a new topic here. We haven't talked about too much in the G League Ignite. For those of you who don't know, the G League Ignite team was just a team of NBA vets plus some high school seniors who came together as part of this G League Rising Stars program to help prevent guys from going overseas to like Australia, China, whatever it may be, keep them here, homegrown, help them learn the NBA system. This team this year had number one overall prospect in Jalen Green, had Deshaun Nix, had Isaiah Todd, Jonathan Kamunga, and what was the other? I think I'm forgetting somebody, but it was those four. So what did you guys think of this experience? And I'll start with you, Ian.
Well, when you think about it, these guys you mentioned, Jalen Green, Isaiah Todd, Daisha Nix, Kaminga, all these guys were highly sought after high school players. And, you would think as five-star caliber players who've all played for Team USA, like, oh, they should go play for, you know, like a Duke or, well, I don't know about Duke this year anyway, but,
Left you right.
but you know what I mean, like Baylor or Gonzaga, play for Mark Few, play for Coach Cal or Kentucky or something, and they kind of did the experiment and hey, let's try and take my talents. I think I'm better than playing for college. I don't think I want to go that route. Specifically, we know the NCAA has been under multiple, not necessarily allegations, but whether it be some of the players treated poorly. If you haven't heard about Coach McDermott from Creighton and his comments, go check that out. See, there's a lot of hidden factors that some players out of high school will rather go to the G League, like these four that we named. And honestly, I think the experiment has worked out great for honestly all four of them. Granted, I think that some guys like Jalen Green and Isaiah Todd will probably go before some guys like Daisha Nix, based on the fact that if you look at Nix's numbers and how he played well, but as a guard, he needs to shoot a little better. Other than that, I think I love the way the Ignite team played, especially with veterans like Jared Jack, who honestly I forgot was even in the G League until I actually saw Ignite play their first game of the year. But other than that, I think it's safe to say it went out well.
Ryan, what did you think, man?
Well, I would have to agree. I think the experiment worked. I think this gave high school prospects an option, and I think that this is definitely going to be used for future seasons. I think that much like what Ian said, I thought that Jalen Green and Jonathan Kaminga were going to commit to like great programs like Gonzaga. I was thinking, Baylor as well. You said Duke. I was actually I wasn't really surprised that the experiment worked. I was just more or less like intrigued as to how it was going to work. Um, I think that the other thing that really like was interesting was that like Jared Jack was the leading scorer in two of their games, even when we thought like Jalen Green and Jonathan Kaminga were both going to like have great like double digit like possible double performances. Like this was an interesting experiment. I actually am intrigued to see if they go forward with this experiment more, especially like with other prospects that haven't committed yet. I think Chet Holmgren is one of the top prospects that hasn't committed yet. I think that would be interesting to see if he goes through the G League Ignite system.
Even Nate Bates too.
Yeah, I think that overall, like this is something that I think the G League could use going forward.
So with that being said, man, and this team, they were able to make it as like a last second seed to the playoffs. Unfortunately, they lost to the Toronto 905 last night. And you guys kind of already alluded to it, but was this a success in your eyes? Did Jalen Green, did Jonathan Kaminga, Isaiah Todd, Dacian Knicks, did they show what they needed to? What do you think they need to improve on in order to get their stock up? When as soon as the draft starts or the draft
Well,
process starts, I should say. And Ian, you can start.
I think that three of the four show what they can do. I think for one, I think it would come down to pre-draft workouts, specifically because of numbers and how. I mean, he played well, but he could play better. I think Jalen Green obviously solidified that. I literally put in my notes, league him expeditiously. That man had a 30 piece in his last game. That man averaged 17, almost 18, 4 and 2 on 36% shooting from three, which will get better, and 46% from the field, which will also get better. I mean, he's crafty. He's a playmaker. He has bounce. I mean, he's everything you want in a young guard right now. Isaiah Todd is another one. League him. He is a problem. 43% from the field. I mean, 36% from three for a 6'10" dude. This is one of those hybrid forwards you want on your team, especially as a young team going forward. Elite athleticism, has some post presence. I mean, he might be off with his footwork from time to time and maybe needs to let the game come to him at some points, but I'm telling you, he's young. That'll come in time. That's not a big issue. Kaminga, same thing. Presence is there. You feel him when he's on the court. The thing with Knicks is I think he needs pre-draft workouts to solidify if he's not necessarily ready, but willing to show that he can produce solid numbers against league competition. I mean, especially like I said before, I mean, he's a guard, but he doesn't shoot that well for a guard. However, he does play make. He has incredible size and athleticism for a guard,
Yes.
yeah, and he's also 19. So it's not like, oh, well, he doesn't have anything to work on. No, he's 19, relax, he'll find some time. I think the first three I said will probably be picked before him just because of that. But I think Knicks will still find a way to show that this experiment did work for him in those pre-draft workouts.
Ryan, we know that Jalen Green is supposed to be projected number one, number two, number three, right around that top five spot. But one guy that people have been really raving about is Jonathan Kaminga and how he's been able to just rise very, very high in the draft standings. He's someone who's really shown his potential, really shown that he can play this game of basketball. What did you think of his rise this past G League season?
Well, I think one thing was solidified this year, and I think that Jonathan Caminga and Jalen Green are both top 5 picks. I think that when you see how they played, I feel like pretty much, I feel like Jonathan Kamega not playing in the playoffs, it didn't really hurt his draft stock. I think that his draft stock was already solidified in the G League season. I think that with Kaminga, his 3-point shot, I know it's not impressive in terms of like efficiency. He was only shooting about 24% from three. I still feel like that's something that he can improve on, and I think he'll improve on it over time. I think that his defensive potential is something that I want to watch out for. I think that, at 6'8", 220 pounds, I think he's going to be a very physical defender. I think he's going to be a guy that can really excel as a defensive anchor for a top four or for a top five potential team. I see on ESPN they have him projected as a two-way forward. I think that there's a chance. I think that, I think he has the chance to become a two-way forward. I think his athleticism is one of the things that I'm impressed with. I just think that, when you're talking about Jonathan Kaminga, I think he gets selected at either 4 or 5. I do think that he is going to be a starter for any team that he gets selected to, but top 5 pick, yes. I think it's either he goes 4th or 5th in the 2021 NBA draft.
Okay. So, and just looking forward, and you guys have both alluded to how successful this team has been, how they met and in some ways exceeded expectations. I just want to ask, and Ryan, I'll start off with you. As far as just the 2021 guys, 2022 guys, people who have lost a lot of opportunities really to be seen by college coaches. Um, what do you think the impact of this team will be moving forward? I mean, we know that these guys were there. They got to play. They got to play around veterans. They got to learn the basketball. They had a great coach in Brian Shaw who helped develop them a whole lot more. How much is this will this hurt or will this really help the NCAA and Australia, China, whatever it may be, in trying to get more of these American players to come and play overseas?
I think this is going to hurt the NCAA because I think that without top-rated prospects, I think that it's going to be tough for like teams like Duke and Kentucky to really succeed. I mean, you saw it this year. I think Duke's like main prospect was Jalen Johnson, and he pulled out of the season halfway through.
I
And then
would
you
have.
Kentucky, yeah,
Can tell you that.
and then Kentucky, you looked at how they were able to get all these prospects: Terrence Clark, Brandon Boston, but the continuity wasn't there. And you could just see it, like they weren't playing well on the floor. And when you see the lack of experience as well on Kentucky, I think their only senior was Olivier Sarr, and I think the lack of experience really hurt them. Now, I think what this means for the G League is that because year one was successful, what do you take away from it and how do you improve on it? I think you need to add another team because I know there's going to be more prospects that might want to take that route. So I think adding another team would give them another chance to take the G League route.
Ian, what do you think, man? Does this help the NCAA? Does it hurt it? We know that, just like Ryan said, Duke and Kentucky, they got hurt. Number one, from not having veteran presences, but then, the pandemic. They weren't able to get together until late into the summer. They weren't able to see their coaches, anything like that. What are your thoughts?
I wouldn't say it hurts like outright just now. I think we have to see what the future holds, but I think in the future it would hurt. I mean, you have hypotheticals. I love hypothetical questions just because of this. You know how many people have asked, could you imagine what KG would have done in college? Could you imagine what LeBron would have done in college or Kobe would have? That's going to keep happening, especially if guys like Jalen Green, Isaiah Todd, Dacian Nix. Could you imagine if, like Brooks mentioned, Imani Bates just decommitted from Michigan State and said, just, I want to do the G League route now? Could you imagine that conversation people will be having? Like, could you imagine if these guys played? And then you bring in all the allegations the NCAA has had, all these coaches that have been under fire, a lot of other stuff too. So, and then they're not getting paid. And, like a lot of these, I want to say collegiate basketball players, accounts of, playing for some of these coaches. Sometimes it's not a good look for the NCAA. So sometimes that better route would actually be to go through G League, get paid while doing it, and still find a way to develop yourself at 18, 19 years old and find a way to get yourself on an NBA roster. So I would say right now it doesn't hurt only because it's a few players at a time, and the NCAA is the NCAA. I mean, they're $1 billion corporation for a reason. But I say in the long run, if you see the number increase year after year after year, and you still have people on two-way contracts, so there's a way to actually get on the NBA roster, it could hurt in the long run.
So, and those are great points, guys. And I want to also, some people may not even remember about it, but we know that the NCAA, they're preparing to do the image, the image likeness, allow players to make money off of that. Do you think in the future that could help them keep the 5 stars or the 4 stars around? I mean, those are the guys that, of course, they build the program, they help everybody get better and all those different things. But could that help the NCAA, or is this G League thing, is the train already rolling and it might be too late? And you can start.
So I think that there's always going to be 5 star, 4 star recruits that want to go and play for Duke and Kentucky and Kansas and Michigan State because that's their dream school. I think that because there are more basketball blue bloods, I think there's going to be more attraction or there's going to be more 5 star, 4 star recruits that are attracted to want to go there. I think for the G League system, yeah, there's a chance that they get the same amount of 5 star, 4 star recruits. I still think that because of the power that Duke and Kentucky and Kansas and Michigan State have, like the blue blood schools, it's going to be tough for the G League system to compete with that. I think that, if Chet Holmgren, for example, if he goes to Gonzaga, like imagine how great that team is going to be. If he goes to Duke, imagine how great that team is going to be. Imani Bates already on Michigan State, like how great is that team going to be? So I think that it only benefits the NCAA more because they're getting more 5 star, 4 star recruits.
Ian, what are you thinking, man?
It's the image and likeness thing, right? The NCAA is doing.
Yeah, they're gonna, the rules basically, a 5 star guy. You could even think of this year, like AZ Fudd, right, from St. John's. she's the most popular basketball player probably in the country. If not the most popular one of the most popular ones. She'd be able to make maybe close to $100,000 just because she's so popular.
Uh, Honestly, it depends. I don't think it would. I'll say this. Um, when you look at how Zion was with RJ Barrett 2 years ago, right? Or a year ago, whichever one it was. No, 2 years ago. Um, they were so popular not only because they were so good, but because they translated their game from high school to college. Zion was obviously a man amongst boys. You had marquee matchup against marquee matchup. And, obviously they could have made, honestly, you said hundreds of thousands for, Azzy Fudd. They probably could have made half a mil, by their image and likeness.
Exactly.
However, if you look at how recruiting has gone in the past couple of years and how you look at the Blue Bloods right now, like Michigan State, UK, and Duke, and how they haven't been successful this year, we've seen two Duke UNC games, which are usually highly touted and highly popular games. No one cared. No one cared. So for
Yeah.
guys like BJ Boston and DJ Stewart, cool, you can make money off your image and likeness, but that actually might be less if you look at a G League contract, depending on where you go. It depends on how much you get for whether it be a jersey or a shoe signing or whatever it is. Because let's just say, like, based on how good you are, let's go with Duke right now at a basically 500 team. If no one cares about how BJ Boston, DJ Stewart, or whatever freshman they are, they might make max like 30K. And compared to G League, not even close to how much you can make. So I think it depends on how good you are. Now, if you switch the topic to, let's say, a Cade Cunningham or a Jalen Suggs, that's probably more money because those teams are doing well. They're going to go to March Madness. And on top of that, Jalen Suggs and actually Cade Cunningham is the consensus number one right now. But Jalen Suggs is a projected top five pick. They could probably make more money than those freshman guards. So if you're a freshman coming in, you're probably like, you have to gauge your options. Do I think this team is going to be this good to make this much noise and probably get March Madness recognition that'll improve my stock? Or do I think the best move for me is to go get money immediately in the G League, play with even some veterans and some already relatively good college guys that went undrafted, and then go to the league and get money? See, I'll even put it this way. I know my man Ryan is wearing the Trae Young jersey. He said he got snubbed. Look, all I'm saying is nobody in the NBA really cared, right? I'm telling you, like it was cool. Like he should have been there, but people were like, "Oh, DeRozan was a snub." People were like, "Trae Young, maybe," and then just moved on. You know what I mean? So image and likeness type thing. Trae Young is not the face of the league, but he is talked about a lot. See what I'm saying?
Just to add one more point, like, why did we think RJ Barrett, Zion Williamson, Cam Reddish, Trey Jones, that Duke team was so popular? Because people wanted to see them play. So if you get like enough talent to one team, like arenas are going to be packed every single night.
Mhm.
Like I think if there was full capacity this year, Oklahoma State would have had a
Yeah.
packed arena every single game because they had Kate Cunningham. I think,
Mm-hmm.
using the example that you made with Duke and North Carolina, how not a lot of people cared. Imagine like if there were fans at those games. There's not a lot of talent on either side. I mean, you have Matthew Hurt, who's a projected second round pick, Jalen Johnson, projected first round pick, and then on the other side with Carolina, you have Armani Bacot, you have Caleb Love. Those are two good teams, but I don't think that would have been enough to fill out an entire arena, especially with the rivalry, the history of the rivalry between Duke and North Carolina. I don't think that there would have been enough. Like, I don't think that the arena would have been as packed for
Right.
this
Well,
matchup that year.
I'll make a comparison like this. It's almost like the NCAA is like a Drake, right? Every time Drake posts some music, you're gonna listen to him because it's Drake. It doesn't matter
Right.
how good of a product it is. It's Drake. You're gonna listen to it, right? But if you're the G League Ignite team, you're kind of like a J. Cole or Kendrick Lamar. The music, you're popular. You're cool, but the music has to be good for people to want to listen to it. Would you guys say that's appropriate?
Yeah, I'd say that's appropriate. I put another rapper in there for let's go this for the NCAA because not everybody that come out of NCAA is a Drake. You know what I'm saying? Let's
Yeah.
say like you're either going to be like a Drake, you're going to get a lot of money, or you're either going to be like like 6ix9ine or Lil Pump, and you're like, we not rocking with you right now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's kind of like that. But for the G League, I do because I think, as a matter of fact, I'll even add for the G League. You put rest in peace, but Mac Miller's career, if you're a rap fan, he has progressed significantly over his career, and J Cole and Kendrick likewise. So at G League, that's the point of it. You're supposed to get better every year, better every time you step on the court. So yeah, I agree with that comparison as well.
Ryan, what do you think, man?
I would say, okay, so since we're comparing rappers, I would say Lil Baby is like criminally underrated. I think that the G League Ignite team is underrated. So I think that would be like the rap comparison. But I think, yeah, Drake is a lot of these blue blood programs because they're always featured on TV. Everyone watches their games. More money is put into their basketball programs because they want their basketball programs to succeed. So, yeah, I could see the Drake comparison where he fits in with all the blue bloods. Mac Miller, I think that's another interesting comparison to the G League teams. Yeah, I think that Drake's the blue blood, Lil Baby, J Cole, Mac Miller. I guess they're the G League teams. That's the G League comparison.
And the crazy part is, it's just like another Drake thing, man. Like even in a down year, Duke, Kentucky, you could pull in like UNC. Even though they're terrible this year, even though they're really struggling, they're still getting more televised games than some NBA teams. And it's just crazy.
How
But
many G League games were on ESPN2 though this year?
heck,
ESPN2 and ESPN a lot.
yeah, and
Hmm.
it's strictly because it's such a unique and different thing. People want to see how this thing goes. And you guys brought up a couple of players, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Suggs. I want to throw in Hunter Dickinson out there. How impressive has this class of freshmen been for the NCAA, for Michigan, for Oklahoma State, for Gonzaga, for whoever else? How impressed have you been by this class? And Brian, you can start off.
Very impressive. I think when you think about the NBA success, the potential NBA success of each of these prospects, it's very high. I mean, when you start with Kate Cunningham, surefire number one pick, Jalen Suggs, he's an electrifying player, top five caliber pick. Evan Mobley, a physical center down low, I mean, top five pick as well. And then you have other guys like James Bouknight, who, if he were healthy the entire season, he would absolutely be a National Player of the Year candidate. Corey Kispert, he's a solid 3-point shooter. I feel like there's so many like NBA ready prospects that I feel like they're going to be in the league for the next 10, 15 years. And that's the great part about this college basketball season is we got to watch a lot of these guys play. I feel like for Kate Cunningham, it's sad that he's not going to be in the tournament this year because the games that he would have, or the teams that he would have played against, I think would have really brought out the best in him. I think the rivalry games have brought out the best in him, but I think if he was playing a team like Michigan, I think if he was playing a team like Gonzaga, playing against great programs in the tournament, he would have been able to really flourish out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thoroughly impressed as well. I mean, let me say this: from last year's draft, first off, it's just a weird year. We all know that for both drafts, honestly. But last year's draft was very interesting to me. And I'll say this: if you look at the first, let's go 20 draft picks, and this year's mock draft and last year's draft, you look at them top to bottom, and you look at what potentially could be this year's draft top to bottom. I'm taking this year's draft. Last year, it was okay. We know the top five or top 10, and then anything else is just up for debate, really, because you had a lot of older guys in last year's draft. Shout out to, I'm at Dayton. Shout out to Obi Toppin. Granted, he got robbed in the dunk contest. We're not talking about that. Um, we're not talking about that. But he was 22. You know what I mean? And then you had guys like Sadiq Bey, 20, turning 21. Stuff like that. So I'm like, There's a lot of older guys in this draft I didn't think about. Now you're going back to, let's see, oh, there's a lot of younger guys, first year guys, one and done guys that have played significantly well. We're talking guys that are shooting 40, 50% from the field, or 30, 40 from the three. And we're talking guys that are really close to 40, like 30 and like 80 splits. Like this is actually really insane for college basketball. So, I'm very impressed. I can name the top five from top to bottom for who could go, especially and we talked about, Jalen Green and Jonathan Kaminga, who could also go top five. There's so much speculation for what could happen just because of how talented this class is. Last year, it was like, oh, we know it's going to be Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman, LaMelo Ball, and Obi Toppin's going to fall somewhere in there. And we didn't really know about Denny, but obviously he's picked up by the, simple as that. So I think it's a stronger year because
I think the interesting thing with the 2020 class is I feel like there are going to be a lot of diamonds in the rough. I think like the second round, I feel like is maybe one of the more underrated second rounds in an NBA draft, considering of like who was drafted in the second round. Trey Jones, I think, is going to be a very solid player for the San Antonio Spurs. I think that's one of the main examples. I think Paul Reed as well. Like if you saw what he did in the G League this year, he was one of the best power forwards in the G League, and he was also averaging a double as well. So I feel like there was a lot of like draft steals. I think Emmanuel Quickly for the New York Knicks, draft steal.
Shout out to Baltimore out there, man. Shout out to the 401.
And I would also say Peyton Pritchard as well. Like they went back to back. I think the New York Knicks picked Quickly at 25. Peyton Pritchard went at 26. I know Ian's really happy about that one, but because we knew Peyton Pritchard was going to, we originally thought Peyton Pritchard was going to be a second round pick, but he was talented enough to be a first round pick. Same thing with Emmanuel Quickly. Possibility that he was going to be a second round pick. He ends up going in the first round. And look at them now. They're two of the best rookies right now in the 2020 draft class. And there's no real argument there.
Well, guys, before I let you go, man, thank you so much for coming on. Why don't you guys give your socials so that these people can, keep track with you guys and make sure they know what's going on with your podcast.
Yeah. So Twitter at IanAC Evans, the Impact with Ian Evans, at Strong Impacts on Twitter and Instagram. I did put out an All-Star Weekend prediction episode. I went 3 for 4. Obviously, I didn't get the dunk contest because that man didn't even kiss the rim. I'm telling you right now, bro. That was, first of all, that was honestly probably the worst dunk contest we've probably ever seen. And I have to say we were spoiled with Zach LaVine versus Aaron Gordon because I don't think any dunk contest, hopefully there will, but right now I don't think there's any dunk contest that will top it. But more content to come. I'll probably get Ryan and Brooks on. But yeah, always a blessing and privilege being on the HMO podcast as always, Brooks.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man. Brian, what's up?
So you guys can follow me on Instagram at @rleshko_10. You can also follow my podcast with Jalen at the Hoop Talk Pod. Season 2 begins tomorrow with a new theme song, new podcast cover, new topics. Definitely going to have Brooks and Ian on Friday to continue this discussion on the G League Ignite team. I would also like to say I think the 2017 dunk contest may have been even worse than this dunk contest. I think the only reason why this dunk contest was shorter was because it was at halftime. I do think that Cassius Stanley was robbed in that first round. I do think Obi Toppin should have won, but
no, it's not a might. He definitely should have won that. And continue, my bad.
Just very disappointed that Anthony Simmons did not kiss the rim. I was very angry.
They said you were supposed to take remember I had to take a test after kissing that rim, though, man. It would have been bad.
I would say, though, yeah, the All-Star game, Team LeBron should have won. I went 0 for 4 in my predictions. So at least Ian got one right.
Hey, well, thank you guys once again for coming on. Ian, man, I definitely agree. That was definitely one of the worst dunk contests. I mean, I think back to like early 2000s, 2017, definitely up there. I mean, and like, I'm just thinking back to even like back in the Vince Carter days, back in the Jason Richardson days. I would even say like a Nate Robinson back to backs. Like those were the great dunk contests. You know, I wish we could go back, man, because even the Twitter they
Yeah,
had clips of like it was like NBA Jam and not NBA Jam,
yeah.
NBA Street I think it was, and
Mhm.
some other things, just like being able to do some really acrobatic dunks.
Yeah,
If
it's just originality, you know.
yeah,
Like, granted, you don't. I'm not saying that has to. We would love originality and great dunks, but like Vic pulled out the rest in peace Chadwick Boseman, but he put out the Black Panther mask and did it was basically honestly a regular dunk, but it was original. We ain't seen that before. Just as long
yeah,
as something original, we did not see anything original last night. I mean, 2 nights ago, we're like, this is not great. So yeah.
By the way, side note, I have both NBA Street and NBA Street Volume 2. So if we ever meet in person, I will bring my PS2 along. We'll get a couple controllers and we'll have we'll have an NBA Street NBA Street Volume 2 dunk contest.
I
Yeah.
am with that. Once again, this has been the HMO podcast. This is just another live stream. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. We are out. Bang.